Hello. Gift ideas for gardeners is what I'm working on covering today. This might be over a couple little segments just because it seems like it's hard to find enough time to get everything done. So right when I'm in my kitchen, got some things out that I use for canning that if you've got somebody that's just getting into gardening and preserving could be helpful. Even if you have somebody that's been canning and that kind of thing for a while, there's a few things they could always use. All right, this is our food mill. This is what we run our tomatoes through to make sauce. I didn't feel like putting it together today. This is the brand right here. Oops, let's get that up. I think this is the only kind I've ever had. This is my second one. I like the way this clamps on because it clamps on to the counter really sturdy. What that does is it de-seeds and de-skins tomatoes. We have put hundreds of pounds of tomatoes through that mill. If I were to purchase another one, I would look for as many metal or stainless steel pieces as possible because the plastic ones are the ones that tend to give us trouble. But we run a lot of tomatoes through that and it's worked very well. Just some things that are nice to have if you're going to can is a funnel like this. You can get one in stainless steel. That just helps to load the jars with whatever you're loading them with and trying to not make as much of a mess. I would say this is a necessity. This is to take the hot jars out of the canner once they're done. And then you always have the lids and rings in hot water to just keep everything as clean as possible and bacteria growth, all the things. I don't know all the science behind it, but you're supposed to keep the lids and the rings in hot water. This just has a magnet at the end of it for taking that out of the hot water without burning your fingers. Now, this is something anybody could use that is canning. It always seems like whatever size lids you need for the jars that you have available, you're always running out of the kind that you have the most of. So mason jars come in two sizes, or the mouths come in two sizes, wide mouth and narrow mouth. This is a nice stocking stuffer of just getting just little boxes of the lids. They come a dozen to a box, one wide mouth, one narrow mouth, or you kind of know the person you're buying for. Maybe they need more, or maybe they need a one particular kind, but this is a nice stocking stuffer. Now these are the canners we have. We also have a pressure canner. I have not used that yet. I got that for my birthday this year in the middle of October. We had already canned pretty much everything. Once I have a better feel for that, I'll make a recommendation there. I've always done water bath canning, and that's what this is. This is kind of the most traditional, I think the easiest way to can, but you only use this type of canner for high acid foods and high sugar foods. If you're going to can like a soup or potatoes or like meat, lots of different things that aren't as high in acid, that's when you're using a pressure canner. I haven't done that, so I'm just not making any recommendations there. I've canned, I've done pickles and hot pepper mustard and jellies and jams and salsa, hot sauce, salsa verde, all of those kind of things in my my water bath canner. Now, this was a birthday present. We did use this. It's kind of cool. It's a steam canner. I have only used this one time, but I really like it. It's supposed to use all the same timing as a water bath canner, but it only uses steam. Instead of having this huge pot of water boiling, and usually boiling over on the stove, because once you put your jars in, you want your jars covered in water, there's always water coming off on the stove. This, you're only putting water in the bottom, and then the steam is what is doing the process of helping you can. So I've used it once. One of the channels that I enjoy watching, Holler Homestead, they had one, which kind of led me to doing a little looking into for that. And they really like it. They can way more than I do. So I'm not extremely experienced with that, but I'm pretty excited to use it next summer. This is another kind of stocking stuffer idea. If you have somebody in your life that's going to do a lot of canning, having a good quality salt that doesn't have iodine in it is great. This is the salt we use. We like to use Redmond salt for fermenting in our canning, and just in general, that's the salt we use. Also a citric acid, or just a lemon juice. One of those things that sometimes when you go to can, you have to be able to make things the correct acidity. So you need either lemon juice. Let's go get the German Shepherd. You either need lemon juice or citric acid to get to the right acidity level. Come on. And sometimes that's one of those things when you go to get started, you're like, okay, I have my tomatoes, I have my food mill, I have all these things. There's like the little things that kind of get in your way. So it is nice to have those, especially if it's somebody that's, just getting started out into canning, and just getting all those little things adds up. Not a bad idea to give them as a gift. No. Also, just in general, like a good food processor is nice to have. That's a bigger ticket item. So kind of depends on where you're at, but just a high quality food processor is really nice to have. Some good knives, some decent sized cutting boards, and a whole bunch of towels. Like, it seems like when I'm canning, I go through so many towels because you're constantly washing your hands and wiping up water and wiping up where you're, cutting tomatoes. Or I just go through a lot of tomatoes, I go through a lot of tomatoes, but I go through a lot of like towels and dish rags and those kind of things. So those are nice to have. Having a really nice big pot for boiling down tomatoes or making big batches of soup or anything like that is really nice. So this one is, I think, 4 or 5 gallon. Another really nice thing is to make sure it has a nice heavy bottom. If it has like a thinner base to it, if your burner's a little bit like hotter in one spot than another, you tend to burn easier. I think when you've got a heavier base to the pot, it disperses the heat more evenly, and it's easier to cook things down. So a nice big pot with a nice like heavy base on it, nice thick base on it, really, I have used that. I think I got that in my 20s. I am in my 40s now, so that pot's about 20 years old. That has cooked down a lot of tomatoes. I end up, when I'm harvesting, I go through so many bowls. So I've got a couple here, but actually for my birthday, I got this nice set of nesting bowls. I don't think they're all up here right now, but some stainless steel bowls. Those have lids, which is really nice. I also use these bowls here, these like nesting bowls that do have lids. I just use those in my cooking a lot. If you're cooking out of the garden and cooking big batches of things, like nice for storing them in the fridge. These are really nice. Also, if anybody's getting into bread making and sourdough, I use these all the time for that kind of thing. A immersion blender. This is more like if you're just cooking from scratch, cooking from your ingredients that you have in your garden. I find that I use this a lot when I'm making soups and that kind of thing, especially in the fall and cooler weather. But this is something I use very, very often just in my cooking, especially using my garden stuff, my garden produce. This is something that I enjoy. Not everybody's going to be ready to do fermenting. Something that took me a while to be ready to do, because I had in my head, Nala, stay out of the trash. I had in my head that fermented vegetables were mushy and gross, and they're not. They're crunchy and tangy and just add so much flavor to things. I really enjoy fermenting. In order to be able to ferment, you need some kind of vessel to hold the vegetable and salt, the brine basically, the salt solution. And you need a weight to hold the vegetable down into the salt solution. And you need something that allows gases to come out but just keeps debris from falling in. So this is the only way I've fermented, is with these materials right here. So this is like the glass weight that holds it down into the jar, and these tops are what allow the gases to come out. And then I've just fermented in mason jars. It's so easy just to cut up a bunch of onions and ferment a jar of onions or peppers. It just adds so much nice flavor. Don't have a huge garden and you're not going to be setting up the canner to do like a big canning project. You can just cut up some vegetables and make one jar of something that you can add to your meals later. Along those lines, just jars, especially if somebody's just starting out or kind of expanding on what their interests are in terms of canning and preserving. Just a 12-pack of jars. They come in quart size, pint, half pint. They come in other sizes as well. I would say these are the most useful. These two sizes, in my opinion, for the type of canning I do, are the most useful. And then some nice things to have, they make lids that you can put on them. So say you make a jar of salsa, and you open a jar of salsa, and then like this is vacuum sealed on. Like after you've canned, this is vacuum sealed on. You pop it off. You're usually not going to consume the whole jar in one setting. Like some people are, depending if you're using it for a recipe, but a lot of times you aren't. You're going to want to be able to put it in the fridge. So just being able to put a lid on that to store it is really, really helpful. And some of us tend to use our mason jars for other types of storage because we just like the way they look when they're sitting on the shelf. They also make lids that you can use to make it like, to use it as a spice container. We've got one half pint jar that we're using our salt in. And then also we've used a mason jar, and we've gotten a lid like that one to be able to use for our olive oil. All right, so this is the guide that I typically use for canning. Now, sometimes I'll look up something just on the internet if I want an idea, but this is just a great guideline for so many things in terms of canning. I believe it has some pressure canner recipes in here as well. I just haven't really looked at them yet because I haven't had that tool to use. So this just has lots of great ideas and recipes and explains how to do things safely in terms of canning, especially if somebody's newer to canning. To have this guide is really helpful. Now they do come out with new versions. I know this is the second version that I personally have had, so the cover may look different, but it's just the Ball Blue Book Guide to Preserving. Now, I haven't gotten all the way through this book yet. Jesse Frost, I watch his YouTube channel, No Till Growers, and I love all that I've learned from that. So this is one of my birthday presents this year, the Living Soil Handbook. I have truly enjoyed this. I feel like I'm going to learn a lot more from it as I finish it. It's on kind of soil health and that kind of thing. If you have somebody in your life that's interested in that, this is a fantastic book. And this is one of my favorite all-time books. Barbara Kingsolver and her family took on a year of just eating local, and this traces their journey of a full year of eating only what they can grow and what their neighbors can grow, or they can be sourced locally. It has recipes in it and that kind of thing. I've read this book so many times I almost have it memorized. So I really enjoy this one. Just thought of another kind of more little stocking stuffer, but if you're preserving, you have a lot of things coming out of the garden, being able to just freeze is very handy. So having quart and gallon freezer bags is extremely helpful. I have started experimenting with compostable bags. I haven't gone a full season with those yet, so not making a recommendation there. I am trying to get away from plastic, but to be able to preserve your harvest, to be able to just throw some tomatoes or something in a freezer bag is extremely helpful. And again, that's always one of those things when you go to use it, it seems like you only have one left when you need 5. So quart or gallon freezer bags, great thing to give your gardener friends. All right, and depending on your gardener, sometimes just some beautiful baskets are really nice to have. This basket has special meaning to me. Actually, I picked it up at Salvation Army. My husband and I used it in our wedding for just the cards, and I love it. It's really pretty. It's simple. I just keep a lot of seed packets and this kind of thing. Here's some corn. Here's some more corn. I do need to organize this, but it's one of those things that makes me happy. Another nice little basket here where I have some seeds stored. Also, nice to have a journal. I would say something spiral ring, so that when your hands are dirty and you're maybe putting seedlings in and you want to record, so another thing that I found is very handy. I don't know if this is something you'd actually purchase or maybe you have this laying around. Right here is what I keep my seeds in. This is an old CD case. I've just found that this is the perfect thing to be able to keep my seeds in and just flip through and see what I still have. I need to go through and organize it, but I can kind of like group things by like some of the cooler weather things, some of the warmer weather things. We're kind of at the point where all music that we listen to is streaming, so we really have no use for any CDs. Had that old case laying around, and it actually works perfectly. I can just take this out to the garden with me, flip through and grab the things that I want, put them right back in. I don't end up with seeds sitting as in many random places since I've started using this. All right, couple more things in the kitchen, and then we're going to move on to some tools. If the gardener in your life is going to be growing some greens, a salad spinner is such a handy thing. I wouldn't want to grow greens without one. This just makes it so much easier for cleaning. As you push this down, it spins the water out. I've had this one for a really long time. I believe this is a brand that Target carries. So, I mean, you can see kind of how yellowed this top is. This has been around for a while. And then this was something that I picked up like at I don't know, like Marshall's, TJ Maxx, that kind of place for not a lot of money. But this was really nice just if I'm going to do just a few herbs, just to have something. And the thing I like about this one is it has a pour spout, so I can just turn it and then pour excess water out and then set it down and spin it out some more. So I think this is really nice. I think if I were to replace this one, I might try to find one that kind of has that feature as well. It's not a deal breaker for me, but it is very nice. Now, if you're going to chop a lot of onions or peppers or anything like that, this is incredibly handy. Now, this is the brand I have right now. I've had 2 or 3 different brands of this. It's just one of those that has a grid here that you set your, again, onion, pepper, whatever you're chopping up on. A lot of times we'll use this if we're making egg salad to cut up everything, including the eggs, and then you slam that down. That pushes everything through, makes nice uniform cuts, and just gets through a lot of peppers or a lot of onions very quickly. Here are some tools that I like having. One, this step stool toolbox I really like to have just to store my tools in the garden. And then also gives me, again, a stool to stand on or sit on while I'm working or doing things in the garden. So this has worked extremely well for me. And then these are some of my go-to tools. Just a nice heavy-duty hand shovel. This was a lovely one that I got from a viewer. I go through probably 4 or 5 of these a summer, if not more. Just some jute string. I like to use some natural fiber string of some variety, so like cotton or jute or something like that. And then these are rusty. This is because I'm absent-minded and I end up leaving things out in the garden at times. So a pair of like a little bit heavier duty hand nippers for like pruning and cutting out plants. Something a little lighter weight is good as well. Simply a pair of good scissors would be fantastic. A jackknife, that kind of thing. Here's some of the other miscellaneous things, including a leaf. Having labels is really nice. I really wouldn't choose, these came with something, so I'm just using them. I would say having like even just like craft sticks, wooden craft sticks for labeling seedlings or putting them in the soil like next to a plant for labeling the different kind of plants with a good Sharpie is really nice. So a little bit earlier I'd mentioned like baskets and that kind of thing. So I mean, I feel like you could just go to Goodwill and find some cool baskets. Some people just love that, something that's been repurposed, that's nice and sturdy, that kind of thing. So I enjoy just having some nice baskets for the garden and just containing things in the house. This has worked very nice for harvesting. This was not an expensive purchase, I believe. Garden colander. We got this off of Amazon. That's been just a very handy thing for harvesting. So harvest baskets, plastic crates that don't have too big of holes in them for being able to store potatoes and sweet potatoes and Holland squash from the garden. A couple 5-gallon buckets just to have in the garden to use when you're weeding, to throw the weeds in to take to the compost pile, to use to shovel compost in to bring back into the garden. I have 2 5-gallon buckets that are in the garden all the time and I'm using them constantly. So just something simple like that is really handy. A gift certificate to a local farm and garden store. A gift certificate to a seed company. My personal favorite is Baker Creek Seeds. I'm just not a person that likes to shop a lot of different places, so I just choose one and I get all my seeds there for the most part. Actually, I just remembered. Hang on. So I have a video posted. Look at those cute puppy dogs over there. I have a video posted about doing like a bulk grocery haul from Frankfurt Farms in this area. Apologies, I know my light's not great here. They carried this seed brand. The art on these seed packets is just unbelievable. So like this in itself is, to me, would be like a gift. Like you wouldn't even need to wrap this. The brand is, okay, so it's right here. Hudson Valley Seed Company. I think these would make some cool stocking stuffers if you just got a selection of these kind of seeds, something that you are pretty sure people would like. I think a good, like a lettuce mix is a good thing to try. So a lot of times snow peas. It really depends on the person. I guess I wouldn't make a generalization. You'd kind of have an idea of what they may like. All right, so there's probably a million things I'm forgetting, but there's just some kind of ideas, guidelines, stocking stuffers, and things like that that you can possibly get the gardener in your life for Christmas or for your holiday celebration this year. Thank you so much for joining me today.